When I was 15 years old, I met an angel. No, not some kind stranger who helped me in some way. A literal angel with wings and a halo. Although, now that I think of it, both of those descriptions are technically true. She was a kind stranger who helped me, who also just so happened to be an angelic being. Anyway, when we were together, I thought I was falling in love with her. She captivated me, enraptured me, confounded me. Looking back, I think I was actually sort of worshipping her. Now, I live my life emulating her, trying to be as kind and loving to others as she was to me. I was a troubled kid, getting bounced around through the system. My parents suffered from alcoholism and drug addiction, and I was taken from them at around 10, I think, kicking and screaming. And the foster families I was dumped into were even worse than they were. At least Mom and Daddy loved me. I truly believe that. They were just sick and didn't know how to get better, but they never hurt me. They only hurt themselves. Honestly, within my last foster family, I can't say that I felt even the least bit cared about. It seemed so much more like a prison camp than a home. Mr. and Mrs. Dodd, our foster parents, would make us kids, there were 8 of us by the way, clean their houses and cars all day and hand me down clothes, only eating a single ham and mayonnaise sandwich and drinking 1 bottle of water every day. And while we worked our fingers to the bone, the Dodds would cash the government checks meant to help take care of us and buy themselves the most expensive, beautiful garbage imaginable. We were perpetually exhausted, miserable, starving, dehydrated, but Mr. and Mrs. Dodd did not care. If we failed, we'd get beaten. If we disobeyed, we'd be beaten. And if we dared question why, we were beaten. And with my attitude, penchant for sarcasm, and all-around disdain for authority, it shouldn't have been a surprise when I found myself getting spanked with a paddle every single day. Though it was all hidden when the social workers came for inspection. We were all too afraid of the Dodds to tell the inspectors the truth. And really, from what I'd heard about the system, other foster homes were even worse. I'd heard horror stories that had begun to haunt my dreams at night. The physical abuse, neglect, and unpaid child labor was quite acceptable when mentally compared to the much darker alternatives. Because of all this, I didn't believe in God anymore. I didn't really believe in anything. No fairy tale kingdom in the clouds where the best among us would live happily ever after under the rule of a noble, just, and holy king. No dark, flaming hellscape to punish those of us who let the darkness in our weak human hearts win. I felt like the world that I could see, the world I could feel, was all there was. And that was a dark place full of evil people and their naive victims who were each just one trauma away from turning into the monsters they feared. And thus, I trusted no one, not even Jesus. This revival began on my 15th birthday when the angel came to me in a dream. We appeared floating in the air in what looked like a raging storm high in the sky. Lightning was crashing all around us, and the thunder was so loud that I could not hear her. From her facial expressions I could tell that she was worried, desperate even, but her voice was too drowned out for me to hear whatever warning she was trying to deliver. At first, her halo looked like the sun behind her head. It was bright and silhouetted her entirely. I'm not certain if she somehow faded its radiance or if my eyes just adjusted to it, but within a few moments I was able to see her clearly. With the most vibrant blue eyes I'd ever seen and long locks of wavy raven hair, she was strikingly beautiful. Her ivory skin was clear and glowing. She wore a mostly pristine white medieval dress with loosely flowing sleeves. Her waist was cinched by a pale blue corset laced with a shimmering black ribbon. Tied around her waist was a silver chain in a loose hoop, the ends featuring dangling charms of symbols that I did not recognize. There was an iridescent horn with a leather holster attached to that chain. It looked similar to the horn of Archangel Gabriel from the paintings my religious grandmother showed me as a kid, just before she had passed away. Her bright, feathery dove-like wings were massive and almost glowing white. They cast long, wide shadows whenever the lightning struck around us. In her right hand was a flaming blade. This immediately put me in mind of Archangel Michael. Grandma told me about them, saying that this blade symbolized the Archangel's power to strike down Satan. Finally, growing frustrated, the beautiful angelic woman took her horn from the holster. She then raised it on high and blew into it. It released a din that pierced my very eardrums, somehow casting away the wickedly churning storm clouds. This revealed a beautiful blue sky surrounding us. However, this also blew away the cloud that I had been standing on, and suddenly I was plummeting, hurtling toward the earth. Miles and miles below me I could see my hometown, the multitude of people walking around, going about their day. They all looked like tiny ants. I couldn't breathe, I couldn't scream, it all felt so real. Closing my eyes, I tried to mentally prepare myself for death. Suddenly, I awoke in my bed, well, the bed I shared with 3 of the other foster kids. Looking over at the alarm clock, I saw that it was 5:55 a.m. That obnoxiously shrill alarm clock was about to shriek as it did every morning at 6. It was time for us to get ready for school. High school was even harder for me than living in the foster home. I was failing almost everything. My teachers and guidance counselors were practically begging me to talk to them, to just try and trust them, because they truly wanted me to succeed, but I just couldn't open up to anyone. As usual, I listened to music on my portable CD player on the bus, an old Christmas gift from my grandmother. I did so to mentally prepare myself for another day of hell. It is what it is, I told myself, almost vomiting from anxiety. I was the weird quiet kid with the hair over her eyes, the creepy goth girl in too much eyeliner, wearing all black, the girl that the other students would laugh at and make fun of, saying that she would end up shooting up the school. That always sickened me. No matter how cruel they were to me, I never once thought of hurting any of them. Hurting myself, however, was a much different story. Just as I stepped off of the bus and back into the winter's cold, I could feel that something was off. Something switched. Something changed. Looking back, I saw the line of students on the bus behind me, frozen in time, the door still ajar. Looking forward, I saw the school, which was, as usual, floated with high school students, but they were all as still as statues as well. This can't be real, I thought. I'm still dreaming. But I didn't wake up. Suddenly, what at first appeared to be a glowing shooting star appeared in the sky. It grew closer and closer to the earth, its white flames radiating behind it. I watched, frozen in shock and fear, as it crashed into the top of the school, causing a mild earthquake of shock waves all around it. And after that, all was silent and still. Curiously, I decided to explore inside of the school to investigate further. I weaved through the frozen statues that were once my schoolmates. In doing so, I waved my hands in some of their faces, touching others, even screaming into some of their ears at the top of my lungs. But not a single one of them so much as flinched. They were lifeless as a rock or a piece of furniture. The hallways were all eerily quiet. Each classroom was unnervingly empty. It felt as if I wasn't supposed to be there, like I was never meant to see this place like this. It was an odd sensation. I searched the cafeteria and the band room. I even explored the upstairs classrooms and offices, but there was no sign of any destruction or debris. There was no evidence of a crashed meteorite or asteroid at all. But there was one place left to look. So I made my way to the massive gymnasium, and it was there that I saw her, the beautiful Angel. She was lying down in the very middle of the gym within a burned hole in the floor. Surrounding her were her massive wings, though they were coated in ash and soot, the bottoms of them blackened and burned. Among her, and filling most of the gym, was burning debris, pillars of smoke rising from it all and into the air. Sunlight was pouring down onto her from the massive hole she had torn through the ceiling. What I thought was snow falling down through that brilliant glowing pillar was actually ashes and embers. A January chill was radiating down along with it. Without noticing my presence, she began to vocalize, her powerful, melodic voice echoing throughout the gymnasium as if it were a cathedral. She slowly stood, her siren song hypnotic even without lyrics, sounding ancient and haunting. I am a bit embarrassed to admit it, but it moved me to tears. And with my loud emo kid sobs, she finally noticed me from across the way, lingering in the doorway of the open double doors. When she stood, I saw the edges of her wings, along with the hemline of the skirt, had been singed and burned. This made their darkened edges jagged and ragged, much like the bottom feathers of her wings. She stopped singing. Esther, she began, stepping toward me. Please, be not afraid. This was amusing to me. She was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. Was I supposed to be afraid? I felt the opposite of fear. I felt drawn to her. Suddenly, her strong, powerful wings flapped from behind her, beating me with harsh gales. At the same time, her bright, blinding halo was illuminated, silhouetting her in shadows for a moment, and that flaming blade appeared in her right hand. My eyes widened as she raised that fiery sword and rushed toward me. I froze in fright as she swept past me and the sounds of battle erupted behind my back. Turning around, I saw her fighting a horrifying creature. It was horned, with a forked tail and goat-like legs. The burned, reddened flesh was all but melting off of its contorting, eerily broken body, showing its sharply spiked spine on its curved back, and its eyes were as black as darkness. This was a biblical demon, and it had been stalking me. The angel was flying all about the commons area, which was between the cafeteria and the gymnasium, slashing it with her fiery sword. Each time that flaming blade made contact with the creature, it let out a horrifying guttural roar, and thick black blood would spew out and splatter across the speckled tile floor. In a flaming flash, it was over, and the demon's head fell to the floor before rolling over to me, its long, forked tongue unfurled as it glared up at me, and I watched the life leave its dark eyes. "Oh my God," I managed, almost trembling. "Not quite," the angel said, slinging the blood from her blade. It then vanished into the ether as her wings folded in behind her. Her halo was still bright, but no longer blinding. "My name is Ay-yuh, and I am your guardian angel." I was in shock, and she could clearly tell. So, like the loving guardian she was, she gave me time. She sat me down at a table in the empty cafeteria and made me a little something to eat and drink in the kitchens. Presenting me with a breakfast plate, she sat across from me and calmly, slowly explained everything and answered my curious, confused questions with kindness and patience. Ay-yuh had been trying to contact me through my dreams for about a year. She had even sent me something called angel numbers as signs, which I knew absolutely nothing about. All of this was a desperate attempt to get through to me, to warn me, to get me to open up and speak my truth before it was too late. But there was too much darkness around me, too many demons stalking me, and so, when she couldn't break through, she stole Gabriel's horn and Michael's burning blade and disobeyed God by leaving her perch in the clouds to come and save me herself. Chills covered my entire body as I remembered my nightmare. What I saw as I plummeted from the heavens, that was the very horror that she herself had experienced. "You are fallen, angel?" She nodded solemnly. Her eyes filled with tears. "My halo is fading. My wings are slowly burning away. We only have a little time left to get you on the right track." My brows furrowed in confusion. Why give up heaven? Just for me? She reached over and touched my hands with her own. Gazing into my eyes, she softly smiled. "God created me to be your guardian. That is what I am going to do. That and your grandmother asked me to." My grandmother. She had passed away just before my parents' drug use took a turn for the worse. It wasn't long after that until everything was spiraling out of control. Ay-yuh took me to the sunny blue skies among the white fluffy clouds. All I had to do was hold her hand. I was flying alongside her, beneath her strong, powerful wings. It felt like sliding down a massive slide at a playground, that breathless feeling just before you start descending, except that split second, that surreal moment, lasted the entire time. The land below looked exactly how it did within my dream. I could see the roads like lines on a map. People had been reanimated around my town and in the school, as if time had restarted below me. I saw them crawling about like bugs on the ground. "That was where you learned?" Ay-yuh asked, motioning down to the school. I chortled a bit. "It's where I suffer." "How so?" "I suck at everything except for electives." "Oh, what electives do you like?" "Art, drama, music mostly." "So you are creative. That is a good thing." I scoffed. "It isn't good enough. At this rate, I'm never going to graduate." "Then talk to your teachers. I know they've been trying to chip away at those emotional walls of yours. Opening up to them will help your academic career more than you realize." "I don't know. I think I might just be stupid." She squeezed my hand and sternly glared at me, shaking her head. "You are not stupid. Never say that about yourself. Do you hear me?" Taking a deep, trembling breath, I looked down again. I was flying. Something I would not have even considered before this, just because it's impossible. Sure, Ay-yuh was helping me, but if I could fly with her assistance, there was no reason why I couldn't raise my grades with a little help from my teachers. Despite my crippling embarrassment, I decided to try and ask. Surprisingly, she flew me to the church I attended with my family as a kid. It was a quaint little building next to a small cemetery. Memories of my grandmother flooded back to me as we descended down toward it. "This is where you worshipped?" Ay-yuh asked, just as we stepped down onto the parking lot. Her eyes had been locked onto that little church since we were in the skies above. I shrugged my shoulders. I don't think I really know how to worship." She turned to me, surprised. "Well, that certainly isn't true. You have posters of bands and singers plastered all over your locker door back at school." I scoffed. "That isn't the same thing." "Isn't it?" She laughed. "You are inspired by them. You listen to their music almost religiously. You idolize them. You think they are good people simply because they're nice to their fans or donate money to charity. You say you love them, but it is their art, their music, that you love. Those people are and will forever be complete and total strangers to you, and they are nothing more than human, just like you are." I glared at her. "Are you going to call it devil music like Mrs. Dodd?" Ay-yuh laughed boisterously. "Oh, darling, that emo drivel is far from devil music. I've heard devil music. It would make your little human ears bleed." I rolled my eyes. "Why are we here, Ay-yuh?" "Oh, right. Well, do you remember Pastor Amos?" I blinked and thought for a moment. "Vaguely." She nodded. "He is in his office now, in the back of the church. Talk to him." My brows furrowed in confusion. Why? Raising a single brow, she glared at me. Because I asked you to. She was actually quite intimidating when she was frustrated with me. Will it help? If I didn't think it would, why would I have brought you here? Okay, I managed, releasing her hand and stepping away from her. As I did so, I overheard her mumbling something about hating being the guardian of a teenager. Admittedly a little anxious, I walked over to the brick stairs, staring up at the large steeple above. Taking a deep breath, I ascended. Much to my surprise, the double doors were unlocked, and so I crept inside. The sanctuary was quiet and empty, its stained glass windows sending bright sunlight into the room. It was unchanged from how I remembered it. Walking between the two sets of pews, I could almost see echoes of my family sitting up in the front, listening to Pastor Amos's sermons every Sunday. I made my way to the back of the church and knocked on the office door. A masculine voice came out from behind it, telling me to come in, so I did. Seeing him, I froze. He looked similar, but his dark hair had grayed. His face was wrinkly. It was like looking into the past. Sitting behind his desk with paperwork in front of him, he tilted his head. Removing his glasses, he raised his brows in surprise. Can I help you? I nodded. You don't remember me, but my name is Esther, and Esther Freeman? Oh my goodness, he explained, standing up. His face lit up with glee as he walked around from behind his desk. I haven't seen you since you were shorter than my knees. He wrapped his warm, loving arms around me, and it actually felt incredibly nice. What brings you back here to us? Taking a deep, shaky breath, I tried to think of the words to say. Well, I'm having a bit of a difficult time lately. He nodded. Take a seat, he said, motioning toward the chair next to me. As I did so, he walked back around his desk and sat down. Taking a deep breath, he smiled at me and tilted his head. Start at the beginning, and please don't leave anything out. Despite my fear, through a breaking, nervous voice, I told him about my parents, their addiction. I told him about my grandmother dying and how much I missed her. I even told him about my foster home and how toxic it was. He told me that he was going to make some calls on my behalf, but he also said if someone wants to talk to me, I had to tell them exactly what I'd told him. I promised him that I would, and he took the cross necklace from around his neck and gave it to me. My father gave this to me during the darkest time of my life, he explained, and it helped me find the light. I pray it will do the same for you. I nodded and put the chain necklace on. Its cross charm was silver with an inlay of what looked like nacre or mother of pearl. Without a doubt, it was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. Upon exiting the church, I saw Ay-yuh leaning against the guardrail of the steps. She had a proud smirk upon her beautiful face. Pointing down to the cross hanging around my neck, she giggled. Helped, didn't it? I scowled and rolled my eyes. Maybe a little, I groaned. Ay-yuh took my hand as I passed her, descending the stairs. She then quietly began to walk me over to the cemetery, and my heart sank as I realized where she was taking me. I had not visited my grandmother's grave since the funeral, and I didn't want to then. Almost immediately, I began to sob, and I tried to fight my way away from my guardian angel. She held me tightly, letting me cry into her chest for a moment or two. It was then that I noticed two more demons between the trees on the edge of the woods behind her. Before I could say anything, she whispered to me that she knew that they were there, that she could sense it. She also explained that they could not approach us because we were standing on hallowed ground. I need you to speak to your grandmother while I take care of our guests, she stated sternly. I scoffed. Why? I already mourned her. Suddenly, she grabbed my arm and rolled up the sleeve of my black jacket. This revealed countless horizontal scars across the underside of my arm, some of them fresh and bleeding. This isn't mourning, Esther. It's self-harm, and you're doing it instead of grieving. Talk to her. In a flash, I was standing in front of that gravestone, facing it. Cordelia Freeman, beloved mother, loving grandmother, its epitaph read. How I read it through my teary eyes is beyond me. Hearing the sounds of battle echoing from the forest behind me, I glared down at the gravestone before me. What am I supposed to say to you? I growled. That I miss you? I do. I think of you every day. The battle behind me was growing fiercer. I could hear the grunts and cries of Ay-yuh as she was wounded. Looking back, I saw nothing but flashes of light between the trees, however, and so I turned back to my grandmother's grave. The tears wouldn't stop as memories of her floated back to me. My parents were too high to name me, so you named me Esther after the hero from your favorite Bible story, I stated. Was that some cruel joke? No one's ever shown me favor. As the horrific sounds of battle grew louder, I collapsed down in the cold grass on my knees. Why did you leave me? If you would have stayed, you could have taken care of me. I'd still have a family. The fight suddenly ended. Ay-yuh appeared next to me and knelt down, putting her arm around me. She said nothing. She did not shush me or tell me to stop crying. All she did was hold me and let me grieve for the first time in my life. Why did God take you from me? I wailed, feeling nothing but pain within me. Why did God abandon me like this? When my tears dried, I found myself lying on my grandmother's grave. That was when Ay-yuh began to sing once more, as if it were an offering, a gift in memory of the dearly departed. And once again her voice was ethereal, magical, and otherworldly. I was so emotionally exhausted after this that I did not speak. Silently flying next to her, my hand in hers, I flowed through the clouds, sniffling, thinking of my past. With my free hand, I found myself holding the cross that Pastor Amos had gifted me. It wasn't until we landed that I realized where we were. Ay-yuh had taken me to my childhood home. The yard was overgrown, littered with garbage and old furniture. One of the windows was broken, and there was spray paint on the brick wall next to the front door. "This is where you lived?" she asked dryly. Shaking my head, I turned to her, jerking my hand away from hers. "If you can call it living, why would you bring me here?" I asked, tears filling my eyes once more. "Just to relive the trauma?" Before Ay-yuh could respond, a weak, familiar voice called my name. Turning around, I saw my mother appearing out from the broken window. She looked sick and eerily thin, but my heart still fluttered upon seeing her. "Mama?" I questioned, walking down the driveway. "Esther!" she called, running out the door. She then threw her arms around me and kissed my head repeatedly. "I've missed you so much!" Shaking my head, I pulled away. "Then why haven't you come for me?" Her green eyes widened in surprise. I thought you'd be happy without us," she admitted. "I figured you'd have a loving family that treated you with the respect you deserved, and you would have forgotten all about us by now." "Are you kidding me?" I asked. "You're my mother. I could never forget you." I then hugged her again, weeping into her shoulder. "Honey," she cooed, warmly embracing me, "is everything all right with that new foster family?" Pulling away again, I shook my head. I told her everything. "Mama, I really need you and Daddy to get clean. I really need you to fight for me, to get me back. I need you both." Hearing this, she began to cry as well. "We were already talking about getting sober, Esther," she explained. "We really want you back, too. Our lives feel so empty without you." I sniffled. "Really?" "Really." That deep, husky voice came from behind her. It was my father, and he looked just as thin and sickly as she did. At once he reached over and wrapped his arms around us both, and we all just wept. It was then that I heard the sound of battle behind me once again. Pulling away from my parents' embrace, I saw that they were frozen, as if time itself had stopped again. Turning around, I saw Ay-yuh struggling against 3 demonic beings. It was clear that she was growing weaker. Her wings were not as strong, and her halo was not as bright as before. But when they came for me, she found the strength she needed and defeated them with one fell swoop. They were all decapitated. And just when she turned back to me, her angelic wings burst into flames. Her halo shattered, sending out shards of light all around us as embers and ashes float up into the air. I cried before her, helplessly watching as she was consumed by hellfire for her betrayal. I saw the tears in her eyes as they shimmered in the light of the fire. Instead of wailing out in pain as I fully expected her to, she began to sing. She sang again in an attempt at calming me down. Her wings were burning away, revealing the bones beneath as they slowly charred, and she was still worried about me and how this sight would affect me. Grabbing Amos's cross, I began to cry out. I screamed at God, demanding he show mercy on Ay-yuh. "If Jesus forgives all my sins," I continued, crying uncontrollably, but filled with a wrath I'd never felt before, "then forgive your angel." This wasn't a prayer, it was a furious demand. Suddenly, the flames vanished. Strange, smoky darkness began to encroach upon us. Ay-yuh collapsed onto the ground before me, naked, her dress having burned away to ash and ember. The bones that remained of her wings crumbled behind her and drifted away into the air. Her sword's holy fire died, and the blade itself seemed to rust as she released it, letting it fall at her side, and we began to hear the growling of demons in the dark surrounding us. "It's no use, Esther," Ay-yuh managed, softly crying. "Divine forgiveness is not for angels. Christ's blood only washed away the sins of humans." At this point, we were no longer at my childhood home. It looked as if we were in the very pits of hell. Cracks in the black ground glowed with volcanic heat below. The sky was blood red and filled with thick, horrific smoke. An army of ravenous demons had encircled us. I could see a dark, horned silhouette on a hill in the distance. With 2 glowing orange ember eyes, it looked as if it were sitting upon a giant throne made of charred bones of humans and angels alike. An inhumanly deep voice, a deep, wicked chuckle, came up echoing from it, and I was horrified, but in that moment I remembered something my grandmother had always told me. "Bravery isn't the lack of fear, Esther," her voice echoed back to me, "but doing the right thing, even when you are afraid. Even Jesus was afraid, but he was brave too." It was because of that memory that I realized something. God hadn't abandoned me, it was I that abandoned him. And I had to act, not only to save myself, but to save my guardian angel as well. Sniffling, I approached her. "Don't you see, Aya?" I asked, holding a trembling hand down to her. "You are human now." Her heavenly eyes widened as more tears fell from them. Taking my hand into her own, she nodded and stood back up. "Pray with me?" she asked timidly. I was nervous, but chose to find the courage within me. "Of course." Closing our weeping eyes, we both took deep breaths and moved our heads up to the reddening skies, ignoring the inhuman, guttural groaning of the hungry demons that were still inching their way toward us. I truly prayed, for the first time since I was a child. Aya asked Jesus to forgive her for trespasses, her thievery, her dishonesty, to take into consideration the good she was trying to do, and I asked him to forgive me for my anger, my blasphemy, my abandonment of him. We both announced that both of our hearts were open to his light and asked to be redeemed. In closing, we both said that we will follow the paths he'd set for us, courageously and loyally, before solemnly saying amen. A pillar of light shot down from the heavens, highlighting us both. It sent a shockwave of divine energy throughout the area, wiping away the darkness and the demonic horde. Taking a deep, trembling breath, Aya looked up into that light, and slowly she levitated up into it, her bare feet lifting off of the ground. She then began to fade away into glittering sparkles, along with the pillar of holy light itself. I stood there in silence, staring up at the point in the blue sky where she had vanished. She was gone. She was really gone. Just like that, she was gone, spirited away into the celestial heavens, and I missed her already. Earth had returned around me. The scorch marks on the ground had vanished, along with her rusted sword. Mama and Daddy had unfrozen, and time returned to normal. But I felt whole. I told my parents that I had to go, and they said that they loved me and promised me they would get sober, and I made my departure, beginning the long walk back home, though I knew I was changed forever. I cried myself to sleep that night over what I had seen. Though my heart was full of light, seeing Aya go through that had scarred me, it seemed, so I prayed again, and it actually helped. Awakening the next day, I wondered if it were all a dream. Either way, I was determined to make a change, and when I went to school, I talked to my teachers and my guidance counselors. All of my teachers were relieved to know that I did care about my future, and were more than happy to help me catch up on my schoolwork, and my guidance counselor set me up with a therapist that I could speak to after school for free. When the other foster kids and I got off the bus at home, we saw the social workers there. Along with them were 2 police officers and Pastor Amos. Unfortunately, I did have to talk to them, but I didn't have to do it alone. Seeing me tell the truth, the other kids found the courage too. Mr. and Mrs. Dodds were arrested. I hugged Pastor Amos, grateful tears pouring down my face, and the social workers got us all out of there. By Christmas time that year, I was living with my parents in a beautiful new house. They had kept their promise, but staying sober was a daily decision, and I would help them work on it. And while we usually put a brightly glowing star on top of the tree, I decided to change the tradition and found a beautiful angel to place atop it. After all, the holiday actually meant something to me now. And on Christmas Eve, just before midnight, I was watching specials on TV, the same ones I'd watched with my grandmother as a child. My parents were sound asleep, but I was too excited to even go to bed, drinking hot cocoa and eating the gingerbread men I'd made with my mother. I looked over at the beautifully decorated tree and the presents beneath it, and felt truly grateful. It was then that it began to snow, and I saw this through the windows on either side of the TV. It hardly ever snows in the south, I thought, and went outside for a closer look. And there she was, waiting for me on the front porch. Aya stood before me, her halo bright as ever. Wrapped in a black dress, she held a sword of pure light in her hand. A horn of her own was now tied around her waist. She spread her perfect wings behind her and smiled, proud of the archangel she had become. Still, she was the most beautiful being I had ever laid eyes on. Before I knew it, I was hugging her, holding her tightly. "Thank you," I repeated between sobs. "Thank you so much." She softly laughed. "You did this all yourself," she calmly said. "I just gave you a ride." Looking up into her beautiful blue eyes, I arched my brows. "You can't stay down here with me," I began. "Can you?" In my slowly healing heart, I already knew the answer. Aya shook her head. Arching her brows, she took a breath. "My place is up there, watching over you," she said, pointing up to the sky. "Just like your place is here, with your parents, watching over them." I tried to dry my tears and calm myself. I understood, but knowing I'd never see her again in this life still hurt me. I love you, Aya," I managed. "I love you too, Esther," she said, reaching toward my cross necklace. She then gently took a hold of it. "But as long as you wear this, the light will be with you. It will guide you through even the deepest darkness. Your grandmother and I will continue to watch you, and God is only a prayer away. Remember that." She released the cross and tilted her head. Looking down at my forearm, she seemed surprised that I was no longer hiding it behind a long sleeve. Taking my hand into her own, she began to trace over my scars with the fingertips of her free hand. I can kiss these away if you'd like me to. I pondered this over for a moment, but I decided to decline. Oh, and why not? I smiled, so that if I ever meet anyone that has the same affliction, they will see it and they will know that they can trust me, and then I can help them through it. A wide grin spread across her beautiful face. She tilted her head and stepped back, taking a full look at me. You have changed. It was true. Though I still wore mostly black, I wasn't covered from head to toe in metal chains and spikes. My usually pale skin had tanned a bit from spending time outside with my family. I still loved the dark aesthetics and music, but living in the light was much more healthier for me. I nodded. I have. I'm still the same little goth chick at heart, but I'm happier now. I've even made some friends at school, and I don't want to jinx it, but there's a boy that I like that I think likes me too. Oh, yeah, he's just so freaking cool. He likes rock music and art, and he's so smart. She shot a coy wink at me. Something tells me that love will be in the air come February. My brows furrowed and I cocked my head to the side, intrigued. Can you see the future? She laughed but shook her head. I cannot, no. But sometimes I like to peek over the king's shoulder at his plans. Placing an index finger over her puckered lips, she blew out air as if she wanted me to keep a secret. Shh. She then glanced up toward the sky before looking back at me. Speaking of, you made him very proud, Esther. Your grandmother, too, she softly said, roughly running her hand through my hair and messing it up. You have a wonderful, joyful life ahead of you, my beautiful girl. Now, go on and live it. And with that, she pulled out her horn, placed it to her lips, and blew. Another pillar of light appeared from the opening clouds above her. She flapped her strong wings and took off into the skies, flying through it, making her way back to the heavens. The last I saw of her was the glowing light of her halo, fading into the falling snow just before the opening and the clouds closed up. I was alone again, but I was no longer lonely. Holding my cross in my hand, I smiled up at the snowing skies, knowing that no matter what darkness I'd go through in life, I could face it with courage and light. My story was just beginning. I would never forget Ay-yuh, my best friend, my fallen angel, my guardian, and at the end of it all, I would be welcomed into the light of that kingdom in the clouds with open arms to live happily ever after. I was chosen. I was loved. I was saved.